Hello, 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 hello. Testing one, two, three. I think we're we are live. We're definitely live. Um, I still wish there was a better way of me knowing that we're live, but anyway, that doesn't matter. Welcome back to Solo Club, guys. Thank you if you're joining me live. As always, you guys are utterly wonderful. You make these streams what they are, basically. And if you're joining in the future, again, thank you so much for tuning in. I've been really impressed with the way these are growing in terms of the viewership, and the subscribers that it's bringing in, and the future views that I'm getting on these videos is absolutely fantastic. Because let's be honest, guys, at the moment they're the only videos really that are going out on the Solo Club channel, and there are reasons for that, which I'll reveal in the not too distant future. All good stuff, by the way. And I do still have podcasts in the can, so I do still have podcast interviews with fellow creators and solopreneurs ready to be edited, but they haven't happened yet. So if you're one of those people and you haven't seen your episode yet, I'm sorry, it is going to happen, I promise. So as always, the two reasons for this live stream today. One of them is to talk about some stuff, which I'll get into in a moment. And the second reason is to take your questions. So as always, I am going to hide the comments so I don't get distracted by them. But please fill the chat with questions. Just anything that comes up while I'm showing you these things in front of me, and equally anything that's been on your mind that you've wanted to ask me for a long time, or within the last 24 hours, stick them into the comments, not the comments, into the chat window. You know what I mean. So very quickly, my quick sales pitch, if you can call it that. Two things. If you haven't signed up to the Substack newsletter, please check it out. There's a link down in the description. That is just basically, let's need to sell it better than that. That is a fantastic weekly, sent every Friday newsletter, basically a written newsletter by me, where it's a bit like this really, but in written form. So I talk about something each week, either something that's annoyed me or delighted me, or something I've learned, whatever. And people seem to like it. So yeah, the Substack newsletter list is down below. And also I'm launching the brand new Mark Ellis Academy, which will hopefully be going live in December. Hopefully, it definitely will. It will. And yeah, if you're interested in to see what that's all about, the link again is down in the description. So enough of that. Today, what I want to talk about, because it's an utterly crazy week this week. The reason it's crazy is because tomorrow I'm flying out to Berlin in Germany for IFA, and IFA is the best way to describe IFA, I think, is that it is the CES. If you've ever heard of CES, that is the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. That happens every January. It's absolutely huge. I've not been yet, but I will be going next year. IFA is the kind of European version of CES, basically. So it kind of beats it doesn't. CES beats IFA to it. But regardless, if you can't go to CES, you go to IFA because it's a bit closer if you live in the UK, and you still get to see loads of brands, loads of brand new products. And as a content creator, well, firstly, this is my first visit to IFA. So I nearly went last year, but for various reasons decided not to. But this year I am going. And the reason I'm going is because I've been invited out by a couple of brands. So one of those brands is flying me out tomorrow to spend a couple of days with them. And then over the course of the weekend, there's two other brands at the moment that I'm working with to get some stuff out onto social media. Revealing what they're showing at the show, what they're demonstrating and launching at the show. And because of that, and there's other stuff as well. So I'll hopefully be doing a collaboration with Patrick Rambles, who, if you don't know who he is, just search for him. You'll find him immediately. He's a fantastic tech YouTuber, very good friend of mine. And we've done some stuff together already, but he's going to IFA as well, a bit later on than me. But we're hoping to kind of get together and do a bit of a collab. And equally, I want to do some vlogging and stuff while I'm there as well. So there's a lot of content to create while I'm there, which is the entire point of going. Apart from getting connections with brands and meeting people and all that sort of stuff, the bulk of my time is going to be creating, either filming or editing content and publishing it. So I need to take quite a lot of gear with me. Now, if you're on the Mark Ellis Reviews newsletter list, I have talked a little bit about this in this week's newsletter, which goes out tomorrow. So you'll get a double hit of this. But I am going to go into a bit more detail on this live stream, just because that's the whole point of Solo Club. And also, I've got something now that I didn't have when I filmed the newsletter, which was yesterday. So it's not quite the same information. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do while I'm there. Normally, and I talked about this very recently, my vlogging efforts are pretty much focused on using this, which is the DJI Osmo Action 4. I still recommend this for most vlogging duties. If you're just walking down the street, walking through a city somewhere and talking to yourself, this is one of the best ways to do it. I maintain that. However, the reason I'm not just taking this weekend and taking all this stuff in front of me is because I need to do a bit more. Why on earth is my Mac saying software update? Please don't do a software update now. That would be the worst possible time to do one. We're okay. We're fine. If I suddenly disappear, that's why. But I think I've cancelled it. Where was I? That's completely thrown me off. Yeah, so the reason that I'm not just taking the Osmo Action 4 action cam this weekend is because I need to get some better footage in terms of, don't get me wrong, it takes amazing, it records incredible 4K imagery, that thing. But when it comes to getting close-up shots of products on exhibition stands and just getting a little bit more arty with it, if you like, it doesn't quite work. So I need some proper camera gear for that, which means I'm going to have a very heavy backpack, basically. It's not going to be a light trip. What I've done on this desk is looks like a bit of a mess because it is. I've kind of siphoned these things off in... Ignore the car. So I've siphoned these things off into two different categories. So on my right-hand side, I've got all of the filming gear, basically. And then on the left-hand side, I've got a few little things which I can't really put into any category. So I'll start with the filming gear because that's the most interesting stuff, really. And in terms of the main camera, I'm only taking one big camera, obviously. You do see some people go out to these things taking 3 or 4 big DSLR cameras. I don't get that at all. I'm just taking one, and I'm taking the one that I trust the most, which is the FX3. So this is the Sony FX3. You may have seen me talk about this before on these live streams. It's my main camera. Everything I shoot for Mark Ellis reviews is shot pretty much on this camera, apart from B cam stuff, which is this one I'm talking into now. This is a Sony A7 IV. But for everything else, whether it be to camera or B-roll, it's the FX3. It's not a cheap camera at all. It sits in Sony's cinema line. And it is a cinema camera because this has been used in a movie quite recently, in a film called The Creator, I think it's called. They shot it exclusively on FX3s. And it is approved by Netflix and everything. So it's a serious bit of kit. But as you can see, it's relatively small. You know, for a serious camera, it's not particularly big at all. So this is the main camera body that I'm taking out with me. Now, attached to this, I have a great big Sigma 24-70 2.8 lens. I use this lens for in fact, all B-roll. Every piece of product footage that you've seen on Mark Ellis reviews is I think pretty much shot with this, unless it's very close-up stuff, in which case I use a different lens. But this is an absolute tank. It's just again, touch wood, has never let me down. It's the primary reason, really, I can't just rely on this, because this is great for vlogging and talking to yourself. But if I'm on an exhibition stand and I want to get some nice detail of a new TV or a new phone or something, that's where this comes in, basically. So this is going to be used quite a bit throughout the next few days. So that's the main kind of setup here. The other thing that I am taking is the lens that I'm talking into now. So the lens that you're looking through, which is a Sigma, I always get this wrong, Sigma 16 to... was it 28? Yeah, 16 to 28 mil f2.8. I use this for all A-roll shooting. So whether it be these live streams or Mark Ellis reviews content, if I'm talking to camera, generally speaking, I'm talking into this lens. It's much cheaper than, it's a fraction of the cost actually of the Sony equivalent, as is this Sigma. I think this Sigma 24-70 was about 800 quid. I think the G Master Sony, which is the equivalent of this really, is about 2.5 grand. And it's about the same difference in price between this lens, the wide angle one, and the Sony wide angle one, which has just been updated actually, and is about $2,500. So save yourself some money, guys, and get the cheaper Sigma and Tamrons of the world, because they quality wise, they're not that different. I love these lenses. So I'll be taking that lens there, and this lens. This lens will be used for this kind of stuff, talking to camera, vlogging, all that kind of thing. Along with those lenses, I will need ND filters, I think, because I'll be doing some stuff outside. I've got no idea how bright it's going to be in that great big, exhibition hall. Quite bright, I would have thought. So in here, I don't talk about filters really. I don't think I've ever spoken about them, mainly because I don't tend to use them. Because in here, I've got full control over the lighting, so all of the ambient light is completely controllable with blinds, and also I have great big key lights, so I don't need ND filters. And if you don't know what an ND filter is, it's definitely worth kind of explaining. So let me get this one out here. It's basically a thing that you put on the front of your lens, as you can see there. I could do a live demonstration here actually. So it goes over your lens, and you can turn this. These are variable ND filters, so you can turn them. So you can see there, they get darker and lighter. And the reason for that is if you're outside and let's say you're talking to your camera and you want a bit of background blur, typically the way you achieve that is to make the aperture wider. So you might go right up rather to 2.8 as the aperture, just to kind of let in loads of light into the lens and blur out the background like I've got here. So you can see a bit of blur on the background and I'm in sharp focus. Now, if you haven't got an ND filter, then if you crank up the aperture, it's going to overexpose everything. It's going to be way too bright because the sun's out. It's going to be horrible. There's two ways of countering that. One of them is to lower the ISO, and the other way, is to change the shutter speed, neither of which are very desirable because they can spoil the image. If you get one of these, what you basically do, you're making the world darker. So if you're in a very bright environment and you want to shoot at 2.8, then by putting this over and making it darker, you can maintain that f2.8 without any change to ISO or to your shutter speed. They are brilliant and very, very useful. So I'll be taking one for this, one for that, and that's going to be very useful if I'm shooting outside, as mentioned. So that's the kind of main camera. In terms of the boring stuff, spare batteries. Although if you've ever used these NP, FZ 100s, you'll know that they are amazing. They last forever, for ages and ages. So I won't be doing that much battery swapping, but I will have 2 spare batteries just in case. I've just realized in the miscellaneous pile, I've put my memory card case. The reason I'm laughing is because in here I have a couple of small micro SD cards for the drone, which I'll mention in a moment. And then I have 4 actually, 4 SD cards for the FX3. And the reason I'm laughing is because I'm rapidly running out of cards. And the reason for that is that I have these old battered Extreme Pro from SanDisk, right way around, 64 gig, which has always been enough for what I do. But these don't last. I mean, to be fair, I really do put these through some serious work, but they keep failing on me. So eventually they just start to fall apart. This one in particular, it's going to happen at some stage. That isn't going to be, it won't go into the camera basically. The answer to that is to get these, which is the Sony Tough card. The problem with these is that they are incredibly expensive, really expensive. This is the 128 gig one. I think it was 180 quid possibly. It's a lot of money. When you bear in mind these are about 20 quid, 30 quid, but you get what you pay for in this game. I'm always talking about spending money on stuff that doesn't mean you have to keep buying things again. I haven't really done that with memory cards. So I've only got one Tough card. I keep putting off buying more, but I'm going to have to at some stage. And there's the question this weekend that I probably do need more than 4 memory cards, but I'll manage it. I'll battle through basically. So that's the main camera. In terms of what I'm going to attach this camera to, if I'm vlogging, I use this. This is brilliant. This is the PGY Tech. I think it's the Mantis Pod. It doubles as a few things. So it's basically a tripod that you can attach very quickly. I can't do it with my wrong hand. There we go, I'm right-handed. So you can attach it to the camera very quickly, he says, under pressure here. So there we go. attached, nice and secure, no problems there at all. So it's very good as a kind of walking around, talking to yourself type thing. But if we fling out these legs, it turns in to a little tripod like that, so you can then angle your camera wherever you want to. It's even got this little hook, and you do have to be brave with this, but a little hook here that you flick out, and I've used this to kind of hang it from a fence panel. I was in Paris last year with doing like a smartphone launch, and I found I needed to do a camera piece, a piece of A-roll, and outside the venue there was this fence, and I thought, well, if I flick that thing out and then angle the camera like this, that kind of goes through the fence, and that sat on the wall, and I had this kind of top down. It was quite a nice angle, but there's part of you that thinks if that thing fails, it's an expensive day out. But it never has done, touch wood. It's just a very versatile little thing, very lightweight, very easy to pack away and stick in your bag and not worry about. So a lot of the stuff I do will be shot on that. I use this a lot on the Mark Ellis Reviews channel. A lot of the stuff that I shoot, if you see me on the floor or just at a desk or something sat at a slightly different angle, it's probably on this. It's that useful. So that is going to be very handy while I'm there. The other thing I've got, which I had to buy because I didn't have one, is a lightweight travel tripod. So I've got lots of tripods in the studio, but they all weigh an absolute ton. They're definitely not travel friendly. So I bought this, which is a K&F concept something, but it's carbon fiber. So incredibly much lighter than I thought it was going to be, actually, but very tough as well because it's carbon fiber. And it was only, I say only, this might sound expensive, I don't know, but it was only 90 quid, 95 quid or something, or 95 English pounds if quid doesn't mean anything to you, which isn't bad, actually, for a carbon fiber tripod. You can spend so much money on these things. I think if you look at Peak Design, for instance, you're going to spend 200, 300, 400 quid on one of these. But I didn't want to spend that much money on something which I wasn't sure how useful it was going to be. I don't know how much I'm going to use this, really, but it's a big tripod. I won't get it all out now, but the legs come down, you unscrew them, and it goes pretty high. I can't remember what the exact height is. But the purpose of this really is if I need to interview someone, or I just need to get some, stable footage without using the Mantis pod. If that's too small, I've got this, and because it's so light, I can stick it on the bag and not worry about it. So that's the big tripod that I'm taking. What else am I doing with camera gear? So I will take, like I say, I will be taking the lovely little Osmo Action 4. Because of that, I'm taking spare batteries, the little battery case that I'm a very big fan of. Charges them and just looks very nice and protects them as well. So that will be used, I think, for some Patreon vlogs that I'll hopefully be doing while I'm there. Who knows? I might use it for other things. I have no idea. In terms of audio, you'll notice that I didn't have a mic attached to this. That is for a reason, and the reason being, I'm going to probably, if you watch these live streams, you know what I'm about to show you. I'll be taking the DJI mics, and if I swing this open, you get two of these in here. Again, charging case, so battery life is fantastic. But that is what it is. It's just a little lav mic, basically, which looks like that. You can attach it. It's got a little magnet on there as well, so you can take the magnet off like that, put the magnet behind your shirt, and there you go. You've got a lav mic. You've got a little fluffy dead cat, not a real dead cat. It's just a terminology for it. A little thing that you can put on the top of it just to give it a hairdo, and also to get rid of any wind noise. Built-in storage. I can never remember what the storage is. I think you get 15 hours, which is enough rambling. So loads of built-in storage. It's just so convenient. And like I say, the battery life is just epic on these. Everything about these is brilliant. I'm a complete broken record about these things. But yeah, they're just, because there's two, if I'm interviewing someone, then yeah, there you go. Easy, just easy, no messing around. So that's the main camera stuff. The other camera I'm taking, actually, is my iPhone 14 Pro Max. So for certain things, I need to do a bit of travel vlogging as well. So this is for one of the brands that I'm working with. Part of the video will be me leaving the UK and going into Berlin. I'm not going to do that with this. I'm not going to walk around the airport filming with this because, one, it's not a good idea. You'll get told off, which has happened to me before. But equally, it's a lot of money to be carrying around like that. This is still a lot of money to be carrying around, to be fair, but nowhere near as much as this. And equally, the video quality on the iPhone 14 Pro Max is still streets ahead of anything else that I've got mobile-wise. So that is what I will use in terms of getting my kind of going to the airport and the plane taking off and landing. All that sort of stuff will be shot on the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So this is a very important camera and my main smartphone. So that's the main camera stuff. The one thing I haven't showed you, which is sitting here, is my lovely little DJI Mini 3 Pro, which I don't know how much I'll use this. It depends how much time I have and what the airspace is like and what room there is and that sort of stuff. But I might throw it up a couple of times just to get some sunrise stuff and just some top view, some aerial views of the venue for IFA. Whether or not I'll use that footage in any of the stuff I'm doing, I don't know, but it's nice to have on file, basically. And this is the Mini 3 Pro with the controller that has a built-in screen. Now, if you are going to buy one of these DJI drones, spend a bit more and get this. There's normally two options. There's this option that has the built-in display, and the other option requires you to plug your phone in and use the phone as a display to monitor your flying. That is such a faff. I used to do that with my previous drone, and it was a bit of a barrier to flying, really, because you had to have your phone charged. If people rang you halfway through flying, that isn't the best thing in the world. It was just one extra thing. And if you know me, you know I hate faff. It was way too much faff. This, you just turn it on. It connects to the drone, and away you go. You're away, basically. So I might have a bit of fun with that while I'm there, depending on timing, and all that sort of stuff. That's the camera stuff. I think I've got all of that. Have I mentioned everything? Yeah, I'm fairly sure I have. I was worried before I started this live stream that I didn't have something on here, but I'm fairly sure we've got something. Guys, I noticed we've got quite a few more people joining now. Hello. Well, thank you for coming on. Any questions you've got about any of the gear or just anything about me going to IFA or just the business in general, stick them. I've not looked at the chat yet. I hide it purposefully so I don't see and be distracted, but please fill it with questions and I will go through all of them in a moment, I promise. Need to have a quick drink of water as well. Okay, so talked about memory cards. That's fairly boring. Although hard case for your memory cards. Waterproof, shockproof, an absolute godsend, that is. Definitely invest in one of those. Just a very small number of miscellaneous things here. One thing is this, which is my current Android phone that I'm reviewing, which is the Samsung Z Fold 5. I've got this for a few weeks, which I intend to put to use, and I am going to be making another video about it in about 2 or 3 weeks' time. So I'm going to take this with me and do some more testing and reviewing of it. So that's won't be used for content production, I don't think. I've got two. Oh God, this could go down badly. I've got two SanDisk external drives. Let me unplug these annoying cables. I've used SanDisk drives, external SSDs, for 3 years, and one of these I think is 3 years old. In fact, they're both knocking on for that. Everything I edit, so every piece of footage I edit for either this channel or for the Mark Ellis Reviews channel, goes through these. I very, very rarely edit on my Mac, as in from the Mac's SSD. And I have never, I'm really kind of tempting so much fate here, I have never, touch wood, had an issue with these. I think the reason for that, and the reason I'm saying this, if you weren't aware, is that there's a lot of stuff in the press at the moment about SanDisk SSDs failing and doing a very bad job of keeping people's data. Now, I've never experienced that. I think part of the reason for that possibly is because these are older versions. I don't have the latest batch, and it does seem, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it's the more recent batches of these that have been problematic. So because of that, I'm very reluctant to buy another SanDisk, I will be honest. But then, weirdly, I've not had an issue with these. They've been utterly bulletproof, like unbelievably so. So I'm taking those with me for my normal editing duties. Please don't let me down now I've said that. God. So there's that. And then I do have a pair of Galaxy Buds 2 Pro, which I need to, I don't know if I'm going to review these or not. These came for free when I bought my Flip 5, but I'm going to use them. I'm not going to take any other in-ear headphones. Basically, I'm going to use these. The other headphones I am taking, as in over-ear headphones, are these. These are my favorite things at the moment. So these are the Beats Studio Pro, which I reviewed on the Mark Ellis Reviews channel, and I've just fallen in love with. And I never thought I'd say that about a pair of Beats headphones, because Beats don't have the best reputation if you're pretty serious about sound and all that sort of stuff. But there's something about these. They don't do anything amazingly, but they do everything very, very well, which makes them brilliant daily drivers, partly because they fold properly. And they go in this brilliant little case. I've never seen a headphone case like this. This is turning into a tech review now, isn't it? I've never seen a headphone case which looks a little bit like a wash bag. Like you put your toothbrush and toothpaste and stuff in there, but it isn't. You put your headphones in there, and they slot in so nicely. There's still room in here for cables and stuff as well. And because I'm traveling, that is just so good. You just don't know it's there. It's amazing compared to some of the other headphone cases, which are huge. And what I'll be doing with these, apart from using them to listen to stuff and work, I will be using them to edit. Which, if you're a kind of sound aficionado, that will make you wince, I know. The reason I use these to edit is because all of the audio that I create for Mark Ellis Reviews and for Solo Club, I'm very familiar with. So that the mic sound, everything is all my post processing is templatable, if you like. So I know I'm not too fussed about. I don't need to hear everything as flat as possible. I just need to hear it on a pair of headphones. And rather than take these and then take a pair of studio headphones, which will have a much bigger case, and it's just another thing to take. Again, keep things simple. I'll just take these. So that's those. The other thing, the last thing to show you, I think, it is the last thing to show you, is the bag that all of this stuff is going in, which is this, the Moment Day Chaser. Now, if you watch my review videos, you may have seen this briefly when I went to the Lake District recently to review the Osmo Action 4. The video for this, I was using this backpack to do the hike. This was very kindly sent to me by Moment, who got in touch a little while ago and said, look, we'd just love to send you something that you can use in your videos. No strings attached. If you don't use it, then don't worry, but we'll send you it anyway. So I said, you haven't got a hiking bag, have you? And they said, yes, we have. And they sent this out, like I say, very kindly. It's one of the perks of this job. Normally, this has one of those kind of waist strap things here, because I panicked yesterday. I thought, I haven't really got a suitable backpack to take all this stuff with. I thought I've got that Day Chaser from Moment, but it's a bit hiking-y. And then I realised that you can take the the waist strap bit. I don't know, it's probably got a proper name, but you can actually take that out, as I've done here, and it just turns it into a normal backpack. And the reason I wanted to take this is because, one, it's got like a little section here for the tripod, so that the carbon fiber tripod I showed you a moment ago can slot nicely into there. But the brilliance of this is that it is actually a camera bag. If I just take out this waterproof thing, hopefully you won't need that. You have this little quick access thing here where you can have your FX3 in there, so you can quickly get it out without opening the entire bag. And when you're done with it, you just close that flap and zip it up. Done. And it's not too heavy. It looks more bulky than it is actually on the screen, but yeah, it's a lovely thing. Very, very nice bag. And I've got to fit all of that stuff in here, all this stuff in there, sorry. Thankfully, I will have a suitcase, so all my clothes and stuff will be elsewhere, but that will be my gear bag, if you like. The other thing, how could I forget about this? The other thing is right in front of me, which is the 16-inch MacBook Pro. Now, long-term viewers of Mark Ellis Reviews will know that whenever I've gone away on these kind of trips, I take too many computers and iPads. I'm not doing that this time because it's utterly stupid. So instead, I've decided, because I'm doing a lot of video editing while I'm out there, a lot of production stuff, I need my best Mac, which is the 16-inch MacBook Pro. It's an M1 Max version, 32 gig of RAM. It's got the M1 Max chip maxed out, 2 terabyte SSD. and it's my main production machine. Every video I make goes through this thing. So this, which is below the camera, is coming with me. The only other notable thing that will also be coming is this, which I hope this is interesting, guys. So much stuff to show you. Which is this, the Logitech MX Master 3S. I'm very boring about this, but that is because it's the best mouse I think that has ever been made. And no, I haven't tried every mouse, so I can't really say that, but it's just brilliant, trust me. If you want a very ergonomic and configurable and just incredibly satisfying to use mouse, get one of these. I feel like I've lost one of my limbs when I don't have this. If I forget it, I've bought two. That's how much I value them. If for some reason I don't have one of them by my side and I need to do a video edit, it's horrible. It's really horrible. I've customized this so much for my video editing process that without it, I'm lost. So that is what I'm taking to IFA. I've got to somehow pack it all into that bag early tomorrow morning before I go, and hopefully not forget anything, which is always a worry. I'll make a list, don't worry. But yeah, I hope you found that interesting, guys. It is now over to you. I can see that we do have some questions, hopefully. Let me just turn that on. While I'm doing that, I'll have a quick drink. But please fill the chat with questions. Hit me with anything you've got, basically. Right. Yeah, hello. We've got some. So Mike's in from Abu Dhabi. Hi, Mike. We spoke recently. Matthew O'Brien, you're a Twitter friend. I don't think you've been on here before, Matthew. If you have, sorry, but thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. Kevin, Alan, Luke. Yeah, guys, thanks for coming on. I love having you here. Any questions? Oh, we got one already. Here we go. Straight in. It would be Mike. Mike, you can guarantee Mike's going to ask a question. Would it not be better to get a bigger sized memory cards instead of more of them? It would. The reason the reason I've never done that, Mike, is because I want some redundancy. So I like to spread my footage across cards just in case I lose stuff. That doesn't always make sense if you're filming a very linear video. That doesn't make a huge amount of sense. But I found that if I have more smaller cards, I tend to swap them a bit more often, which means basically if I shoot video A on this and then I've got to shoot video B, but I haven't got time to transfer stuff over to the computer, I can just leave this and turn it around and think, okay, that has got stuff on it. I can leave that. I don't need to worry about it. There's no panic in terms of copying stuff over. Because also when you have a big memory card, if you fill it with several videos, anyone who's kind of worked on multiple videos at once, so if you've got if you're working on 2 or 3 different videos at a time, which can happen in this game, you can very quickly get lost with footage. And this might just be a personal thing, but if I'm filming, like I say, 2 videos on the same memory card, I quickly get confused about what's what belongs to what. And yeah, I think the bigger the card, the more inclined I would be to fill it with lots of different videos. And for me, when I say that, I mean lots of different footage for different videos, which for me just gets a bit confusing. So it's a personal thing, but it's a fair point, Mike. To be fair, you're probably right, to be honest. Matthew, first time hanging out in the stream. Yes, you stream every week and love to see other creators getting into live. Yeah, so Matthew is a fellow creator. I've never tuned into your live stream, Matthew. I'm so sorry. I haven't watched. I was thinking about this morning, actually. Embarrassingly, I haven't watched much YouTube myself for a long time. For the last 2 or 3 months, I've barely watched it. I've watched things on and off. But one of my main kind of pieces of advice for people who want to get into this game is that you have to love YouTube and watch it all the time. At the moment, I've been the worst ever at doing that. I think partly that's because I'm just so busy. And as you may know, I'm currently looking for a right-hand person who I may have found. If you've got in touch, I know there's a couple of people on here who have. I've spoken to a couple of you as well. I think I've possibly found that person. But the reason I'm looking for that person is because I need some time back. And one of the reasons for that is to spend more time watching YouTube. And Matthew, I need to tune into your stuff. It's embarrassing that you've beat me to it. I should be, we should be on level pegging with that. I should be taking more notice of what you're doing. So Matthew, if you want to stick your YouTube channel in the chat, please do. This is all about sharing and getting people to watch our own stuff. Mike, if you wouldn't buy another SanDisk external SSD, what would you buy instead? Genuinely don't know at the minute, Mike, because I haven't done the research. Again, due to time, really, and I haven't really needed to. I'm tempting so much fate with this live stream, but nothing's gone wrong, you see, with these, and I haven't had to. I do have a couple of spares as well, so I'm not in complete limbo if anything goes wrong. I do back stuff up as well, so that yeah. But regardless, I haven't looked into it yet. I will always take recommendations, though. If people have recommendations for external SSDs, stick them in the chat, please, guys. Matthew, are you using a dedicated app to handle your data transfers or handling it through Finder? I just use Finder, Matthew. Is that wrong? Should I be using something else? I'm fairly archaic with that. I just stick the memory card in and copy stuff across. Should I be using something else? I'm interested now. For me, that works. I've never had an issue with that. One thing that I would say, going back to these tough cards, is that one of the benefits of spending all that money, apart from it being literally tough, is that they are very, very fast. So copying stuff from this onto this Mac via the Mac's SD card slot versus doing the same thing with this, the tough one is so much quicker, so much quicker. So again, production workflow, it speeds things up. But yeah, tell me what I should be doing. Matthew is a Final Cut Pro man, by the way. He's a much better editor than me, but he also knows Final Cut Pro like the back of his hand, unlike me. So definitely worth following. No worries on watching the stream. It's tough to catch all the content out there when we're busy making it. It's true. I mean, and also the more this turns, it is a full-time job for me. I'm not sure if it's full-time for you, Matthew, but I think I've got a feeling it is. Regardless, you know that the more content you create yourself, it's just harder to keep up with what other people are doing, and you should do, because that's how I learned my craft. It's how I learned, the whole YouTube business idea, and the whole, the way that I run this business came from me being a fan of YouTube and admiring what others were doing. So, and that learning never stops. You've got to carry on doing it. So I'm very conscious at the moment that I'm not putting time into watching and digesting YouTube content, which is naughty. But there you go. Keep the questions coming, guys. We've got Mike and Matthew who are just kind of tag teaming now and just kind of asking questions one after the other, which is brilliant. But yeah, other people, please get involved as well. Ask me anything, honestly, anything. What are your thoughts on websites such as Freelancer and Fiverr as a medium with which to find freelancing work? Did I use Freelancer? I don't think I did. What was the one that I used to use years ago? Orange branding. People per hour. People per hour was the thing that got me into freelancing myself back in 2014, 15. I started getting some work through that. I don't know if that's still going, to be honest, but I've used Fiverr as well as someone who's been, kind of brought in the services of others. Never used Freelancer before. Fiverr's pretty good. I've always found it quite hard on this side of the fence where, if you're recruiting people to do stuff, I've always found it quite hard to sift through the results, but I've got no experience of it in terms of using it as a freelancer. That's one thing which I don't have any opinion on because I've never used it. But it's worth trying, I think, Mike. It's well, unless you mean from the perspective of finding freelancers, in which case, like I say, it's not bad, but you do have to hunt through a lot of people to find the one that you want. It's not wrong. So Matthew's referring again to the copying stuff from cards onto your computer. It's not wrong. There's a great app called Hedge, soon to be called Offshoot, that's great for transferring data to 2 drives at the same time. I love it, and made a video about it. Stick the video in the chat, Matthew, so we can all check it out. But yeah, I'll check out Hedge/Offshoot. That sounds interesting. Although, again, what I do is relatively simple. So it's a case of filming on 2 cameras and then just copying the stuff across, which takes 5-10 minutes at the most, depending on how much footage I've shot. But anything that speeds that process up is always interesting. Mike, how many hours do you work a week, and has this changed over time as your channel has grown / added another channel? How many hours do I work a week? Too many, I think my girlfriend would say. I don't know the exact number, but if I tell you my schedule, that probably you can probably work it out from that. So I typically start work at 6 a.m, just after, depending on how quickly I roll out of bed. And then I don't really stop until this sort of time, really, probably sometimes 5:30. I try and finish at 5 because I want to get back and see my son. Um, but yeah, so that in between that time, I do go to the gym most days for about an hour. So there's an hour you can take out of there, and then occasionally I'll do some work in the evening. Although I do try and limit that as much as I can. That is happening this week because this conference coming up in Berlin. It's just a very crazy time. And I do work most Saturdays, but I try and just do Saturday morning. And sometimes I will take it off and have the entire weekend. But they're long days. They're nearly 12-hour days. I don't know. I love that early morning period. I love that period between 6 a.m., let's say 8 o'clock, which is made up of me, having a coffee and writing, doing some emails and stuff, a bit of journaling occasionally. And then I have breakfast with the family, which is very lovely and a lovely start to the day. And then I tend to leave and come over here and get the day underway in the studio. Or sometimes I go to the gym and do some work at the gym before working out. But I don't know. I love what I do. It doesn't feel like work. How many hours do you work a week? Well, it doesn't really feel like work. It never has done. It's just that's how many hours I spend on this thing that I've created. And anyone who does this, Matthew will know this, you could spend every hour that you have, you could literally just not stop working. You could go on and on and on. But you'd burn out doing that. And I think I probably have burnt myself out. I think last year I did burn myself out. And I've come close this year on a couple of occasions. But you have to be so careful with that, which is why just pulling back and spending time with the family or spending time with your favorite hobby or whatever. I've got a drum kit. So the drum kit is behind the camera. I bought that because I've always wanted to learn to play the drums, but also because I wanted it as an outlet to just occasionally, just for 10 minutes, sit there and bash away and learn some stuff. And I'm trying to do it as much as I can. It's proving difficult, but when I do it, it kind of takes me away from this and it gets the mind going on something else. That was a long answer, Mike. Hopefully that helped. Matthew agrees with me on the early morning stuff. Alan, hello, Alan. He's just arrived home from filming a video 5 on the channel, an interview with a Ukrainian refugee. Wow. There was an issue with sound. Thank God for the backups on the DJI. What was the issue, Alan? That's horrible. Firstly, that sounds like an incredible piece of content. Puts what I do to shame, really. But that sounds amazing. Again, when that's ready, let us know. We'd love to check it out. But going back to the problem that you've had, not knowing what it is, you perhaps give us some detail. The one thing that I always fear, I think every content creator fears this who makes video content, isn't so much the video footage. I mean, you want to be in focus and not have things in frame that shouldn't be in frame. But the one fear always, now I have this pretty much every time I load stuff into Final Cut Pro, is that the audio is ruined for whatever reason. Touch wood, I'm making so many promises to myself today. I know something is going to go wrong at IFA. But touch wood, I've never had a serious issue with sound. I've always been either lucky or I know what I'm doing, I guess. But I've heard some horror stories where people have sat there for an hour recording themselves and not press record on their audio recorder, or the audio itself has been horrible. We did have one problem once on the 8 or, in fact, I do tell a lie, we have had one issue. On the 8 or 16 podcast, we had a guest on who I don't know if we talked about it. I won't mention it. It wasn't his fault. It was no one's fault, really. If it was anyone's fault, it was mine for not having a backup recording. But we spoke for nearly 2 hours. We interviewed this guy for nearly 2 hours. And it was a brilliant podcast. And the next day he sent across his file and it was unusable, completely unusable. It was skipping and an utter mess. Even AI couldn't fix it. And I felt like crying. It was like we've literally lost 2 hours worth of great content. And I've never, like I say, never lost content like that before. And it's a horrible feeling. So I'm hoping, Alan, that isn't as bad. From the sounds of it, you had a backup, which is the key thing. But sound is the one thing that you can never really forgive. If you've got a beautiful looking YouTube video with terrible sound, no one is going to watch it for more than 10 seconds. So that's why it's always at the top of my mind, really. Excuse me. Matthew, yes, it's absolutely doesn't feel like work. And with 2 kids and my wife, you got 2. I've got 1 kid, so you've got double the kid stuff, which must be interesting, wonderful and interesting, obviously. You have to limit yourself to an 8-ish hours per day. Amazing, and minimal on the weekends for sure. Great. I mean, I'd love to get down to that 8 hours. I think, and that is my goal, really. Not long term goal, but certainly short to mid-term goal with having someone help me significantly in the business. I do need to pull back a little bit. Where can people download your 5 tools every creator needs from? That's a very good question. Sounds like you've downloaded it, Mike, if you're aware of that. It's somewhere on the Solo Club website. If you go to soloclub.online, there's a form there somewhere that you can download it from. Thanks for picking up on that, though, Mike. It's very useful. It's a free tool. It's a free PDF tool, which I'll put it in the description, actually. I'll try and remember to do that afterwards. But yeah, just 5 things that I think every creator should have. And Mike has downloaded it. Thank you very much, Mike. I really appreciate that. Any more questions, guys? Oh, this is a good one. Okay. Where do I start with this? YouTube and invalid traffic. How bad is it? Okay, so if you're not aware, this is a very good question, Mike. Thank you for bringing this up. It's very prominent at the moment on Twitter. If you're a YouTuber and you've got YouTube friends, you'll probably know someone who's become a cropper with this. So basically, this is going to be a very bad explanation of it because it hasn't happened to me. Thank God it hasn't happened to me so far, or it could happen. Invalid traffic is when your channel gets hit with what YouTube thinks is invalid traffic. And what it does is it basically doesn't count that traffic. So if you have a video that does, let's say it does 20,000 views in 2 weeks, but as far as YouTube is concerned, 70% of those views are invalid. So they're bots. It might be that you've worked with a sponsor who has paid for views to come in. Basically, YouTube looks at it and says 70% of those views don't count. So we're not going to give you 70% of that revenue, roughly. Basically, it completely destroys your revenue for that video and for the channel overall. And this is happening at a worrying, an alarming rate across YouTube. So there's people that I know, that some creators that I'm friends with, who have had this happen to them and have had serious dips in AdSense revenue because of it. Like I say, I've not had it happen to me at all yet. It does seem to happen in tech quite a bit on tech channels. Yeah, it's horrible, and the reason it's horrible is because YouTube is aware of it. They do reference it. They kind of but all they do when you kind of you mention it on Twitter and say, look, hey guys, hey creator support, I've lost 70% of my revenue because of invalid traffic. I don't know what that means. What can you do? Is it a bug? Is it something I need to do? The responses at the moment seem to be, check out this help desk article, or there's nothing wrong. And it's all a bit. It feels like we're being left in the cold a little bit with this. And it's really scary. We just need support with it. And like I say, I've been lucky enough, thankfully, not to have this happen, but it could happen now. It could happen in the next 10 seconds. It could happen tomorrow. And like I say, I do know I know directly people who have had it happen to them. And it's not very nice at all, particularly if YouTube is one of your main sources of income. But again, it does reveal how you shouldn't rely on just one source of income. I've talked about Medium on this live stream recently, which has been dreadful recently in terms of the kind of cuts on the cuts to writer revenue, depending on the sort of stuff that you write, following their partner program changes and the way they've changed their algorithm and their human curation. This is another example of where you can't rely on one channel. You have to have different income streams, whether that be affiliate income, sponsorships, different platforms that you can make money from, digital products that you're selling. You've got to widen your net, because these platforms, as amazing as they are and as free as they are to get your stuff out, and as profitable as they can be as well, because YouTube can be incredibly profitable if you're in the right niche and you're getting the right number of views and your RPM is high enough. It can be very, very lucrative. But equally, the best analogy I ever heard, and I always think about it, is that YouTube, I can't remember who said this, so apologies, whoever that was. Not that you'll be watching this, but it was basically that YouTube enables you to build a mansion in their back garden. So you'll never be as big as they are, and you are in their backyard, back garden, whatever, and they can kick you out at any point. And that's you have to think about that. It's an unfortunate truth about this industry. Okay, Alan, I think this is this was your audio issues, Alan. So after the first third of the interview, you pulled the cable out to listen to make sure it recorded, which it had. I put it back in, but for the rest of the interview, the camera just picked up silence. Interesting. I wonder if you didn't fully. I've done this before, actually. Didn't fully insert the cable into the jack. Maybe, I don't know. Oh dear. But you've got a backup, Alan. Please tell me you've got. Here we go. So you had the Rode Wireless Go, but have switched to the DJI this week because you use it and your sound is mega. God, it was just pure luck that the DJI stores the backups on the device. Yeah, I mean that's the attraction of these, really. And for that reason, they're very good backup devices. So if you've got a shotgun mic, for instance, but you're worried that the battery might run out, or you're just worried that you need a backup, you can have your shotgun, but also give the person that you're talking to or who's talking on camera one of these, because you know that if your shotgun dies or doesn't work or whatever, you've got the recording on here, and it's on here. There's no transfer anyway. It's not transferring it wirelessly, or it's physically on here. And then all you do is plug it in via USB-C into your computer, transfer across the audio, done. I'm glad that was sorted out. I'm glad you've got that. We always need a backup. Excuse me. Matthew, so disappointing that what's happening on Medium. My revenue has tanked, I think that means. I'm so sorry to hear that, Matthew. In fact, I think you've mentioned this before. And it's really hit people quite hard. A lot of writers, don't get me wrong, it's benefited a lot of writers, and I'm genuinely happy for those people. But for others, it has really been a problem, and I fundamentally disagree with the way that Medium is building its algorithm / human curation method. It doesn't work. I'm sorry, I don't believe it works. I don't think it works for writers. I don't think it works for readers, because if you log into your Medium I can't get on my soapbox again about this. If you log into your Medium profile as a reader, I can guarantee you won't see stuff that you want to read. You'll see old articles. You'll see stuff from Barack Obama, which might be really interesting, but it may not be what you want to read today. But you won't, unlike YouTube, when you log onto YouTube and you see loads of videos that look really interesting. That doesn't happen on Medium, I'm afraid. It's a very sad state of affairs. I'm genuinely sad about it, because Medium has always been one of those platforms that I've recommended. I can't recommend it anymore. It's as bad as that. Mike, is your estimate of $280 of Medium revenue based on your first few days in the month going to be accurate? No, that was going to be my next point on Medium, actually. It's going to be about $1,500, which sounds amazing. Like, what are you worrying about, Mark? Why are you moaning for? The reason it's not that amazing is because it's based on pretty much all of that is based on 2 boosted stories. So these are the stories that the curation team manually picks up and boosts by clicking a button, a human clicking a button, a human who may have had too much coffee or got up late or had an argument with their partner the night before. That person clicks on a button and off it goes. I had two incredibly, laughably similar stories boosted on Medium. One of them has made $850 or something, and the other one has made about $600 or something like that. That by a long way, they make up the majority of that $1,500-ish haul for this month, which I think is what it's going to be. The rest of them are pitiful. It's kind of $10 here. One's got 40, another one's got 2, there's 3. Whereas before they were much higher earning. And I haven't changed my writing style. And ironically, those 2 stories that were boosted, I don't think were my best work, which again is why that I don't think this curation thing works. I don't think it's good for the reader. I want people to be seeing my other work that I think is better. I need to be paid for it, because this is my full-time thing, and writing is a skill. And anyway, off the soapbox. But no, I think the crucial one, to be honest, Mike, will be September. I mean, everything's in flux still. Things may change, but September is going to be interesting, because unless I get 2 more massively boosted stories, the earnings are going to be absolutely pitiful. So we will see. We'll see what happens. Guys, any more questions before we wrap up? Any questions about all this gear that I'm taking to IFA, which already feels like too much? The one thing I didn't show you actually is the batteries, spare batteries for the DJI drone. Again, this is why DJI stuff is so great. You basically take that out, put it into the back of your drone, fly it, great. When it's done, stick it back into the charging case. That charges it up a bit, not a huge amount, but you get some juice back into it. Get the next one, away you go. Brilliant. And also you can use this as a battery pack. So it's got an out, like a USB. I don't know why it's USB A. That's a bit annoying, but there is a USB A out where you can charge up your phone if you want to as well. So off those batteries, very clever, very, very clever. Yeah. Any last questions, guys? Throw them in very quickly if you've got them, and then I will leave you in peace. While I'm waiting for any last questions to come in, the next live stream is going to be next Thursday. So because of the days I'm doing these on are all over the place, which I know some people are finding quite tricky to kind of keep track of. Apologies for that, but there's lots of things happening at the minute in terms of me being away on these kind of business ventures and other stuff that's happening. So next Thursday will be the next one at 4:00 UK time. I will try and do some a bit later if I can, I promise. I am doing my first ever Mark Ellis Reviews live stream next month. So if you weren't aware, the iPhone event is coming on the 12th of September, the iPhone 15 launch. And for the first time ever, I'm going to do a live stream on the Mark Ellis Reviews channel from here at 8:00 that evening at UK time, which I think is, what time is it? It's about midday, I think, UK PT. So yeah, so that's going to be very interesting how that goes. Something here about luggage. Will it all be under weight limit for carry-on luggage? Yeah, it should be fine. I mean, the weight carry-on, they never weigh that. I don't know about you, Mike, but whenever I go on these smaller airlines, they very rarely check your hand luggage. I think it's fine. If it's over, then I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. I've never had a problem before, though. Alan, are the DJI mics like AirPods? You can open the case and connect to the Osmo Action. No, they don't connect to the Osmo Action, Alan. So, very good question. They don't connect to anything like that. What you can do, they have a receiver here. So if you want, you can place this on not on the Osmo Action, but you can place this on your DSLR and then it's got a little audio out. Plug that into your camera. So what will happen then is that the mic will transmit the sound to this on your camera and then record it straight onto the SD card in your camera if you want to avoid having to have two separate files. But no, it doesn't. If I'm filming with this for audio and that for video, they work completely independently. They have no knowledge of each other. But when I put them into Final Cut Pro, they just sync up the audio. So Final Cut Pro syncs the audio, which for me, it has never got wrong. It always works. You don't even have to do clap syncs. You go like that to get everything, to get a nice big transient on the audio to make sure it all lines up. You don't have to do that. You just literally record separately, stick it into Final Cut Pro, merge the two files, recordings, whatever, and it matches it all up. It's just brilliant. So simple. Hopefully that answers your question, Alan. Right, guys, I am going to leave it at that. Because I have to get home and see my family, and then tomorrow morning, early start, to pack all this stuff into a bag and head to Berlin, which is going to be... I'm excited. It's going to be a very hectic 5 or 6 days nearly. I'll be doing lots of stuff that I've not done before as well, which I love doing. But I will update you on this. I think when I do the live stream on Thursday next week, I'll give you a bit of a debrief on how it all was and what I learned, what went right, what went wrong, because I guarantee a few things will go wrong. Yeah. There you go. Cheers, guys. As mentioned at the start of this live stream, if you have watched this live and got involved, thank you so much for giving me your time. And equally, if you're watching this in the future, thank you as well. It means the world. And if you haven't checked out the Substack newsletter yet, just click that link below. And if you're interested in finding out more about the Mark Ellis Academy, which is coming later this year, the link again is down below in the description. Thank you, Matthew. I will enjoy Berlin. I love Berlin. It's a lovely place. But yeah, cheers, guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to end the broadcast now and do that thing where I kind of walk out of frame. So cheers. Have a great rest of your week.